Bunjo Istebon Ohantena. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. All right. Grade 10, grade 11, grade 12, and matric revisions. All right. Let us focus now. We are given a question here of which it involves trigonometry. So now, this is an IEB question paper of which it was written in June 2016. All right, it says at 1.1 there, if 5 what? 5 sine of what? Sine of theta is equals to 3. And they gave you a restriction to say that that is where 90 degrees is less than or equals to what? Theta, and less than or equals to what? 360 degrees. All right. They say determine with the aid of a sketch without the use of a calculator. Firstly, we need to draw our cast diagram. This is how it's going to be. All right. So now on our cast diagram, we need to fix this person. How so? Okay, we have to fix this person by saying 5 sine of theta is equal to how much? 3. So we want sine, of which that is what? That is our trig ratio. So we're going to divide both sides by 5, divide both sides by 5. Then we will be left with sine theta equals to how much? That will be 3 over 5, of which, remember, the one that says so, of which this one is the opposite, and the opposite is y, and our hypotenuse will be what? Our I. So the missing value here is supposed to be what? That should be x, of which the adjacent. So now, most of the learners, they are asking if they are confused whether the terminal arm will lie on the first quadrant or the second quadrant. If they've given you a restriction, so they are saying that the angle is greater than 90 degrees, which means that says to you the angle is increasing. So on this side, remember, I said to you on part 2, we only have this thing, so of which the angle is decreasing. So now we want the theta that is increasing, of which this side will also have what? 180 minus theta, and also what? 90 plus theta. So we want that thing. So which means our terminal arm will lie on the second quadrant. This is our terminal arm, and therefore will be joined to join the what? The x-axis. And therefore remember, we have the value of r, of which is how much? That will be 5. And we have the value of y, of which is how much? That will be positive how much? Positive 3. Y is equals to 3. So we are left with the x. And x, if you can check it, it's on the side that it has negative x value. So how do you know about this one? Remember, I said, after if the examiner is giving you a question to say that you must use the aid of a diagram to cast that one, that means you're also supposed to be knowing what? You must also use Pythagoras theorem to find what? The missing side. What is the missing side now? That will be x. Then we're going to use r equals to how much? Equals to x squared plus what? Plus y squared. Alright, this one is the equation for Pythagoras theorem. We already have our values. Our r will be how much? Will be 5 all to the power 2 equal to x, you do not have it, you are looking for it, and that will be plus what? Remember why we have it, that is how much? That is 3 all to the power 2. So if we write this in accordance, in the standard form, that will be x squared equals to how much? That will be 5 squared minus what? Minus 3 squared. Therefore, we're still having x squared equals to 5 times 5, that will be how much? That will be 25 minus how much? That will be 9. And therefore, that we can say x squared is equals to now 25 minus 9. You put punch that on a calculator, and we're going to get alright, that will be 16. And therefore, when you square both sides, that will be plus or minus, of which we're going to get x is equals to, remember, we're not going to take the one that is positive because our x value is on the negative side. That will be how much? Negative 4. We have found the what? The x value. So now they never said find the x value. They said to use what? Use the aim of the sketch to determine what? We are given the 1 over tan theta. Alright, when we answer this one now, this is where we're going to do this now. So our 1.1 will be as follows. That will be 1 over what? Over tan theta. Alright, then you say equals to. So when you check very well, remember tan theta is what? Tan theta, that will be, can be changed into what? That will be, tan theta is equals to sine of what? Sine of theta divided by what? By cos of theta. You can do this, you can change and do the reciprocal. But in this case, remember what we're supposed to be doing. We're going to have 1 over what? 1 over, tan, remember it's opposite over what? Over adjacent. So our opposite, that will be how much? That will be 3, and our adjacent, that will be how much? -4. So whenever you write this, this will be a reciprocal of whatever. And therefore you do this, the final answer this will be what? -4 divided by how much? By 3, sorry. Then you get your final mark. Then let us come to 1.1.2. 1.1.2, you are given what? You are given 5 cos of theta divided by how much? By 2. So remember, we just substitute our values. That will be what? That will be 5 into, remember cos is what? Our cos will be now adjacent and hypotenuse. And our adjacent is what now? Our adjacent is given as what? -4. That will be -4 divided by how much? That will be 5. All divided by how much? By 2. Then this one we can see that we're going to cancel and cancel. We'll be left with what? -4 over 2 of which -4 over 2, that will be negative how much? -2. Therefore, you get your final answer and your final 2 marks, your full 2 marks. Alright, I want us now to focus on the 1.2 now. I will just erase this part and we'll focus on 1.2. I hope we are together. Alright. Then let us look at 1.2 now. What does 1.2 say now? This one. It says if sine of what? Sine of 18 degrees is equals to P. Remember I said to you, examiner will test you with that question to say that express a certain trig ratio in terms of a certain variable. So here this is what we're supposed to be doing. They say determine the following in terms of what? Of P. So 1.2.1, we are given what? Sine of 198 degrees. So sine of 198 degrees, that will be so very, very simple. How are we going about this one? And this is where you're going to say sine now into what now? You're going to subtract these 2, of which is going to be what now? That will be 180 degrees plus what? Plus 80. Therefore, this thing, we already know that this thing is on our what? It's on our second quadrant. And on our second quadrant, our sign is positive. That means it's going to take what? Sine 80 as it is. And then that will be equals to how much? That will be equals to P. Then let us come to 1.2.2. 1.2.2, we are given what? We are given cos of a negative angle. And a cos of a negative angle, before we go any further, this is what we're going to do now. Right. Bear in mind that this thing, as it is, the cos of a negative angle, it is found in a what? In a fourth quadrant, because on the fourth quadrant you also have a negative angle. But how do we go about this one? Alright, this is what is going to happen. If you can just check this one, we're just going to say cos of what? Cos into, now we're having negative angle, but it's fine. Alright, we can change that to be alright, let's say 90 degrees minus what? Minus 80. Not minus, that will be plus. Alpha. Therefore, we come. Remember, cos of a 90 degrees says to you, you change that trig ratio, it becomes sine of what? Sine of 80 degrees. But if you can change that one, our 90 plus, it's on the second quadrant, and the cos there is what? It's negative, which means we're going to receive negative sine 18 degrees. Of which now, this is where now we're going to have what? Our negative P. Therefore, this will be your final answer for 1.2. Just like it is. Right. Let us look at what now? Let us look at 1.3. I will just erase this and then continue with the rest. All right. All right. So our 1.3, it says simplify what? All right. We are given, without the use of a calculator, we are given what? We are given cos of how much? 360 degrees minus x into what? Cos of what? Cos of 90 degrees minus x times what? Times that will be tan of what? Tan of 180 degrees minus x. I hope you're fine. All divided by a cos of what? Cos of 180 degrees plus x times sine what? Sine 360 degrees minus x. Bear in mind, examiner is giving you to say, solve for me, simplify for me without the use of the calculator, and I will give you what? I will give you 7 marks. And then when you decide to say that, no, I do not want that 7 marks, I deserve 0. All right, if the year was about now, let me just give you that level 6, 7, or 5 in mathematics. All right, let us focus on this one. Okay, this one wants us now to go back to our what? To go back to our class diagram where we're talking about the reduction formula and also the what? The cofunctions. Remember, I said for reduction formulas, that is where we do what? We say no. And then for what? For cofunction, that is where we say what now? Yes. Alright, now let us focus on this one. Okay, remember, this side we're having 90 degrees minus theta. Right, and then this side we are having 90 degrees plus what? Plus theta, and this side we are having 180 degrees minus what? Theta, and here we are having 180 degrees plus what? Plus theta. This side we are having 360 degrees minus what? Minus theta. And therefore we also have negative what? Negative theta. Alright, let us focus. Remember, here it's all, here it's sine, here it's tan, and here it's cos. Alright, now let us change this one. Now we can see that the cos of 360 degrees minus theta is on what? On our fourth quadrant. How is the cos then? The cos is positive. Therefore, we're going to leave it as positive what? Positive cos of x times. Now we come on this one. This one, whenever you see 90, this is where now you refer to as what? That is a reduction also. In fact, that is a cofunction. So which means whenever you see 90, that means yes, it changes. You must ask yourself, if I see cos of 90, does it change or it does not? Yes, it changes. Why? You can see that my head is going vertical. So which means 90 is also vertical. Which means we're going to change and make it what? Sine. But sine, which type of sine? Alright, let's focus on this one. This is 90 minus theta. And 90 minus theta, that will be in what? In the first quadrant. How is sine in the first quadrant and how is cos in the first quadrant? That will be positive, which means you're going to have positive sine of x. Then let us focus on this one. We are having tan 180 degrees minus what? Minus x. And how is tan on that side? Tan is negative what? That will be negative tan of what? Tan of x when we change this. Alright, we divide both sides by cos, let us focus on this, 180 plus. Remember, 180 plus is where? It's in the third quadrant. And how is cos there? Cos is negative, which means we're going to have negative cos of what? Cos of x times sine 360 minus x. That will be in the fourth quadrant. And how is sine in the fourth quadrant? Sine is negative. Negative what? Sine of x. I hope we are fine and we are collected. Alright, this will cancel and we will be left with what? Cos of x minus what? Oh, times sine x times negative tan of what? Of x. This side, the negative and the negative will cancel, we will be left with what? Cos of x times sine of what? Sine of x. Now this is where we come across this the situation whereby we see the twins in the numerator and in the denominator. That is where now cos will cancel and give 1, and sine will cancel and give 1. Therefore, we will be left with what? Our negative tan of what? of x. Now, let us look at the question now. So, the examiner, you have got your 7 marks. That is 1 mark for the tan x, 1 mark for changing the cos, 1 mark for changing this one, and 1 mark for this, and 1 mark for that, and 1 mark for what? For this. So that will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then 7 will come here whereby you cancel this thing and then you'll get your 7 marks as it is. Now let us check the last question. The last question says 1.3.2. It says that you must simplify what? The sine of into negative 308 then times what? Cos of 300. Alright, this one wants the special English now, but it's fine. It's also co-functions and also reductions. Cos 248 times what? Times tan of what? 135 degrees. Alright, and this is for what? For 6 marks. Never ever get 0 on trigonometry. Why so? Because you just need to change the 3 things. Right, now let's check this one. This one, as much as it passes 300, that 360, that means we're going to use 360. That will be sine of what? Sine into 360. What is the angle that we can add to get 300 and what? 338. That will be how much? That will be plus what? Alright, that will be minus 22 degrees. Then you close the bracket, we come on this one. You say cos into this one passes 300. That means that will be what? We will say 360 minus what? Minus 300 because when not not this one. That will be 360 degrees again, minus 60 degrees. Why we say 60 degrees? Because when we subtract 60 here on this angle, that will give us 300. Thank you very much. Let us deal with the below one. Here we are having cos of what? 248. That will also be, remember now, note in mind that 248 it is not greater than 300. That means you must be dealing with 180 degrees. Why so? And therefore, we want the angle that when you add in 180 is going to give you how much? 248. That will be plus what? Plus 68 degrees. Then you say times. Then we come here. We also here need the one that is going to do what? The one that is going to give us 135. That will be tan into 135 is not greater than 180. Therefore, we can use 90. It is fine. Alright, if we use 90, that will be how much? If we can say 90 degrees plus what? Plus 45. That will give us 135. I hope we are fine in that situation. Alright, therefore let us continue with this one. If we can continue with this one now, let us see what we're going to get. Sine of 360 minus an angle. That remember, 360 minus an angle is on the 4th quadrant, and our quadrant, the sign is what? It's negative, which means here we are going to have negative sine of what? 22 degrees. Then let us say times, we come here. Cos of 360 minus, that is on the 4th quadrant, and cos is positive, therefore we have what? Cos of what? Cos of 60 degrees. I hope we are fine. Alright, we divide now. We deal with this one. Cos of 180 plus an angle. Plus an angle is on what? The 3rd quadrant. And how is cos in the 3rd quadrant? That cos is what? That cos will be negative. Negative cos of how much? Cos of 68. Cos of 68. Time is now. Let us deal with this one. Tan 90 plus is on the 3rd quadrant. And tan is what now? Tan will be what? That tan will be negative because on the 2nd quadrant, of which we go to have what? Negative tan of what? Tan of 45 degrees. So now when we continue with this question, this is where now we're going to receive a situation like this one. Alright, let us continue there. Negative side. Okay, now let us look at this one now. We are having negative sine 22 degrees and below there we are having negative cos of 68. So sine 22 and cos 68, if you can say 68 plus how much? Plus 22, that will give us 90. Of which sine over cos, that will be what? That will be tan. So this and this, they cancel. We are left with what? We are left with cos of how much? 60 degrees divided by negative tan of how much? Tan of 45 degrees. Therefore, we already know by using special angles that cos of 60 degrees, that will be 1 over 2 divided by how much? By negative 1. Tan 45, that will be 1. Therefore, we can see from this one that we're going to receive what? We're going to receive negative 1 over 2. Therefore, you get your 6 marks at tan 4.